Yate, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Sorry I'm a bit late. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Time. Thank you, Joan. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? And the New Mexico Pledge.
C3 is the remid, the connected training and balance. And then Gallup B3 and B5 and B6. I'm sorry, B3 and B6.
B3, B5, B6, C2?
C3.
C3.
It's another through. Madam President, I have a couple items that I'd like to address since while you guys are looking. 5B, the Navajo Nation School Clothing Program. We'd like to remove that from the agenda. Mr. Wallace was not able to attend this evening.
Table.
In addition, items 8L and M. Those are resolutions.
8L.
On the third page.
8M. What do you want to do with those?
Like to have those actions after the executive session. I just wanted to note that.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Manini, with the tabling of Navajo Nation Clothing Program and also moving that after.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As mentioned.
Okay. Any other? Everything okay? So we'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Mr. Heineman?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito?
Yes.
Mr. Triplehorn, are you okay for us to move forward? Okay, thank you. So what the-
Okay, we have public comment here. The first one we have Amanda Brino. Did I say that right? Okay.
So when does my time start now? Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Briano. I am a native to Gallup, New Mexico. That means I was born and raised here. And I went to the Gallup High School and I graduated in 1995. I graduated in the top 17% of my class. Some of my teachers that I had were Mr. Kenneth Holloway, Curtis Fortney, Mr. George DeTore, Mr. Davidson. And the reason why I'm naming these men to you is because they impacted my life greatly. But that's not why I'm here tonight. The reason why I'm here is I have a question for the Gallup McKinley School District and other surrounding areas. I'd like to know why the students are not being taught, and as a fact from what I've heard, some schools don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance. And why aren't our students being taught how to write in cursive? Okay, the following information is something that I pulled over the internet. I got it from the case for cursive writing facts, intro graphic, okay. It is a proven fact that cursive is a benefit to both cognitive and motor functions of the brain. It helps students to, in their ideation, text production, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous.
Okay.
Punctuation, planning, spelling, grammar, self-monitoring, orthographic, motor, and evaluation. And foremost, if students do not know how to read in cursive, they will not be able to read documents such as the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution of the United States. And I firmly believe that if we being the city of Gallup, claim to be the most patriotic city of the world, patriotic, let me tell you, means that we have a strong love for our country. It does not mean that we are better than any other country, but it means that we are surrounded by the Navajo Nation, where we have the Navajo code talkers. We have white people, black people who fought for this flag that stands in this room. They gave their lives. People lost wombs. I mean, arms and legs. How can we not feel that it's important for our students, our children, to learn that these ideals, like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and learning to write in cursive, are not ideal or good things to teach them? If we don't teach them that the nation that they came from is a great nation, they will not stand for the land that God has given to us. So I am urging you, people of Gallup, people on this council, to please reinstate the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools. Please teach our children right, because they are our future. We are not going to live forever. We are aging, okay? The children are our future, and we need to recognize that. The United States of America is a great land of plenty. It has food, it has water resources that are clean and good. And if we do not take them and preserve what God has given us, we will lose them to other people who will come and, yes, kill us and take our land. And that's what I have to say. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here tonight. And most of all, thank you, God, for the country, the great men and women, the Navajo Goat Talkers, other veterans of the U.S. Army that have fought for us.
Thank you very much. Brenda D. Tahi.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. My name is Brenda Tahi. I'm a parent of a student athlete of Peru High School. The reason why I wanted to bring to your attention is that the parents and I have been noticing and witnessing some of this that we want to bring to your attention as a school board. The issues with our Peru High School basketball coach. There has been allegations of bullying, threats to our basketball players, verbal abuse, threats, and even reprisal to our students who are participating in and representing Peru High School. As I was reading the New Mexico Association book, we talked about character and development of our students, and I see here in this room fairness, caring, citizenship, respect, responsibility, and trustworthiness. This is something that we really need to emphasize in the upcoming things that we're going to bring up to your attention. The parents will be coming, and we would like some of the health board, I'm from the hospital, school board to actually witness what some of these parents would like to bring to your attention. So I understand that this is an ongoing season right now, but my concern is for the next following year. The coach has given us verbal threats that he is going to be back next year and that he will take care of business once again. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of this and that we will go ahead and just to kind of give you a heads up that this is going to be happening. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ms. Alonso J. Martin.
Good evening, honorable board members and audience. My name is Samantha J. Martin. I am a parent, and I'm here speaking as a parent this evening. I wanted to share with the school board a request to look into how we can possibly provide more drinking water to all of our students at the schools. Getting a lot of concerns from our schools, our children, and I don't know if it's just in our rural schools, but definitely it's a concern to get maybe some water bottles or fix broken water fountains in schools so that every child has access to drinking water at the schools. I also understand that some schools limit drinking water because they don't want their students requesting to go to the restroom. And so, I think that's a big concern. So if we could remedy this in some way, I don't know if we need a board policy or if we just need to send word out to all the schools that it's important for our students to have access to drinking water, water bottles, permission to go to the water fountains, and also permission to go to the restrooms when they need it. I think that would really help curb a lot of the illnesses and sicknesses that are going around a lot of our schools too. So that's just one request I wanted to bring to your attention as a parent. Lastly, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our school board for bringing in our new nutrition and food services program. I know that when I did bring this up years ago when we were getting food services from the district, we had a lot of concerns about the kinds of foods that our students were not getting. But since you all were proactive and you selected a food service vendor, we've seen an improvement in the food and nutrition at the schools. And today was a wonderful day for parent-teacher conferences because for the first time we had food that was catered or served at all of our schools. And I was happy to eat with my children at all of the schools. I have elementary student, a mid-school student, and a high school student, so I got to be at all the schools today. And the food was great, and it was nice that they allowed the community, the parents, to partake in that. So we got to enjoy the cafeteria, sit down, have a meal together, and it really helped me from having to rush around to go get food for my family so that I could make it to all of the parent-teacher meetings. So I want to commend the school board members for setting up the food at the schools for parent-teacher conferences this year. I hope we continue to make that a tradition and also maybe add more veggies. So thank you.
Thank you all for your public comment. I do have to say that the food services being at the parent-teacher conference was something that administration decided to do, but did inform the board of it later on. So I think the thank you would go to the administration for that. We'll go ahead and move on to 3 on the agenda, which is approval of minutes. We have January 17, 2017.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Menini?
Under old business, we had a table for our climate survey. Is that coming forth? In this meeting or
this meeting?
next meeting? Or it's on old business B? And it was tabled?
Okay. We can probably get that on the next agenda.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just to bring that up to information. And going into new business on B1 for Miami High School, 5 students and 2 chaperones, and that refers back to today's agenda of approving a person to go that same to Denver trip. Is that in part of that problem or information, Mr. Hyatt?
Mr. Meany, I'm a little bit confused at your question. Are you saying that the item today
Yeah, there's
is
one on
referring back to B1?
right. There's one on. Does that refer to B1? It's on. Let me see where it's at.
C1, sir?
Yes, it's C1. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. So is that because this is after the fact? Is that the one they forgot to include? Is that in this trip?
Mr. Menini, Madam President, the trip before was for the students. This new one is after the fact for the adults that we did not put
Okay.
on the agenda.
There was another chaperone then that wasn't
This-
mentioned.
So this is C1.
Okay, thank you.
A new one, I'm sorry. One that went that was not a part of the original, from what we understand.
Understand. Thank you very much for the correction and an update. With that update, I appreciate it, and I'd like to approve the minutes of the January 17th meeting, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Menini. There's a motion for approval by Mr. Menini. Roll call, please.
Mr. Heineman,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito.
Yes. Next, we have approval of consent agenda items. CA, CB, CC, CD, CE, 8B, 8C, 8F, 8G, 8H, 8I, 8J.
Madam President?
Mr. Mr. Menini, go
Thank
ahead.
you. I appreciate the
Uh-huh.
couple of questions.
Okay.
There are a few that Mr. Hyatt said that they traveled after the fact. Just wanted to bring that to attention. And on C2, C3, C4, and C5, what do those schools represent? There's no schools listed on those items? It just has teachers or staff, but doesn't say what school they're going to. When they're going to Dallas, most of them. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Mr. Muni, 2 and 3, anything that has to do with Apple Connect Ed grant is Tehachapi Elementary, I'm sorry, Theru Elementary. Let me say that again. It's Tehachapi Elementary, Theru Mid, and Saigai. They're part of the Connected grant, and this is a part of that grant. No cost to the district for those trips. You also mentioned
Number 4 and number 5. One's going into San Antonio, Texas, and the other one's going to New Orleans. 4 and 5.
Belinda Cross on that particular item is a school psychologist, so it's a central office position, not a school.
Okay.
And did you say C5 also?
Yeah. Miss Miller.
Mr. Menini, I do not know what school this is. I'm not sure if there's a, where at? Oh, Tehachapi, there it is. Tehachapi High School for C5.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have for. Oh, one comment on 6E, the current bills. I had 4 questions to respond to Ms. Hanks, and she responded back to me affirmatively. So those are all corrected, and they're ready to go. So just for the board's purposes, I did go over the current bills, and they look good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hinneman.
Yes, thank you. I have questions on 2 items. The first one being item 8H, the collaborative agreement with Gallup Service Unit. And overall that, I understand that there's one item in there which is always a touchy one, has always been a touchy one, I think. It mentions in item 13, it's F13, family planning education. I'm not quite clear. Most of this would be working with students with parental consent, I believe, if I interpret this right, to treat them at school, give them care so they don't have to go to the clinic, and make services more accessible and perhaps more used. On the family planning education, it's not clear to me if that would be individual counseling. That's the way it seems to be, because it says if needed, including counseling to promote healthy sexual behavior choices. I'm concerned that we understand what that is in terms of the parental aspect subject again, because IHS historically has sometimes done things along that line without parental consent, even though sometimes they're supposed to use it. So I don't know if there's anybody here who can clarify the intent of that one.
Madam President, Mr. Heineman, we do have some members from the Gallup Service Unit that are here today. If they would come forward and they could answer some specific questions for us.
Excuse me.
You could introduce yourself, please. Yeah, microphone. Thank you.
Well, good evening, school board
Good evening.
members.
Yes.
I'm Carmelita Darwin with the Gallup Public Health Nursing Department. I can only speak on Public Health Nursing Department, and I do have dental department here and two individuals that if you have any dental questions. But pertaining to the question that you had on family planning, that is, if it's needed, and that's an individual kind of counseling, sometimes our department does receive referrals from providers. It may be to follow up on a teen pregnancy and talk about family planning. Maybe there's a pregnancy that needs more extensive education. Furthermore, and I do also have health promotion here, and they also do a lot of education, and I'll have them introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Marlene Jaspers. I'm the HP specialist working with health promotion.
Good evening. I'm Tony Lisanez. I'm the school health coordinator for health promotion.
I guess to make it a little plainer, one of the things that comes up under this category, of course, is when it comes to birth preventive devices, and whether that's meant to be provided under this particular category. I mean, I've seen IHS clinics where condoms are put out like lollipops in bowls, and I want to know what our understanding is here.
For the Public Health Nursing Department, pretty much my program works with referrals. There's going to be a rare amount of time within the school year that some of my nurses may go into one of your schools, which is listed here in the collaborative agreement. If there's ever a time that one of my nurses need to see one of the students, of course they need to make that contact with the nursing services with your school. And then from there, if the agreement is good and the student is pulled aside and my nurses provide whatever the case is, it may be maybe for diabetes follow-up, just a number of different health aspects regarding the referral, that those are the times that we'll be coming into the schools.
And then where do the parents come into that?
We can be calling and notifying the schools. At times it's a lot easier to contact the students while they're here in school versus trying to find them at home. And then of course there are times that we've come across that nurses are going to the home, and then of course the parents are saying they're at the school and so forth. So that sometimes we do get consents in regards to visiting the students in the schools.
That's my question on that one. If the board doesn't have any more on that particular item, then I'll move to the
You mean on the service unit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a comment, I think this agreement is great for our McKinney County schools that will provide this service to help you out. And I thank you.
Thank you. My question was actually, do we always provide the space that they need at the schools? Because it says Gallup McKinley County will provide space for providers to use. Is there always space provided?
Madam President, I'll just answer. First of all, I have never heard a complaint that we are not providing space. So if we are not, then that's something that I would want to hear about. That's part of the agreement.
At this time, I have not heard any complaints either. Pretty much, all we need is a small space to see our student. And then, as I mentioned, I'm only speaking for public health nursing, and there is dental and health promotion here. I'm not sure what if they have anything to include.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm the hygienist at Tohatchee Health Center. The only issue that I've had with not enough space has been Twin Lakes. They're kind of overfull and they're running out of room to put us. Otherwise, I think it's been okay everywhere else.
Hi, my name's Rochelle Begay, and I'm also a dental hygienist, but I'm with GIMC, the GMC clinic. As far as space, we have no issues. A space is always provided for us at all the schools that we are going. So yeah.
And my other question I have is on under F, C. It says health surveys and or screenings. What happens to those health surveys?
If we conduct a health survey regarding the school health program, all the data is collected and then is shared back with the principal. And with the principal, whatever this principal decides to do with the data, it's their data, belongs to them. So it's just with the principal and ourselves that have the data. The kind of data that we collect are fitnessgram, which is height and weight, BMI, physical activity, stretching, and things like that. So that data is shared directly with the principal. And if they request individual reports of every individual student, then we can also put that, give that to the principal if they should want it.
Okay.
And then it goes into our charts at the hospital because the majority of our students are ICHS members, so it goes into our data for the hospital.
That data that's collected is really helping with the schools. We partner with the schools. If we see that there's a need for physical activities, we offer our services to help the principal, the teachers, and the PE to offer as many different activities that we can to help. We know that if we collaborate like that, that we can really help benefit the students because some of them may have overweight issues, and we like to really go in there and try to help them. And we have seen one school that just really did a tremendous job lowering the obesity rate. So we're really happy with that. So our being able to do this collaborative agreement is going to be really even more helpful because we have the resources that we can contribute anywhere from dental to public health, nursing to health promotion. And there are others too, like with Navajo health education from the Navajo side, CHR, you know, how they work with the students. And it's not really limited to the students either. There's some schools we have. We work with their after-school program, which involves the parents, which involves the teachers, and most of all the students. And it's really neat to see that, to be able to be in the company of all those people that really need to hear and to share their stories about what health means to them. So that's really important, and I just want to thank you for giving us the privilege to share that with you.
Thank you. And the main reason why I'm asking is because we do have a wellness committee that I think some of that information like that would be really useful for them also to implement different things. And if the parents want to opt out, because I usually do for my son in the Rue area for dental part of it, just a dental because he goes to his own doctor or dentist that he sees. Is that possibility with your program also, that if parents wish they could opt out of this?
I can only speak for the schools that GIMC clinic sees. Andrea, she sees the Tohatchee area schools. So yes, the parents, they can opt out of the services. What we do is we give a consent form. This is our consent form. So we hand out the consent forms to the teachers, the health assistants, and they disperse the consent forms to the parents. So the parents, they do not need, if they don't want the services, yes, they can just fill out no on this consent form and then just return it, and we do not see the child because the parent checkmarked no.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, I'll go on to
Excuse me,
different
there's one
question.
thing I want to add before
Yes,
we move forward. I just noticed that there's one school that we did not add, is the Twin Lakes Elementary School. And I'd like to add that to this collaborative agreement.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for all you do for our schools.
Okay. Madam President, the other item I'd like to ask a question about is item J, the intergovernmental agreement with the PED. And this has to do with, I'll call it piloting, again, dual language program in 3 of our schools. Those being Tohatchee Elementary, Navajo Elementary, and Twin Lakes Elementary. I support the intent here. I'm just wanting to think out loud and ask a bit about where we're at in the process, because this past year I think Twin Lakes was intended to be one of those models already, and it didn't work out. And I'm just wondering if there's, if things are going to happen with existing staff. Does this grant help us add maybe another NLC coach and trainer? Because it's not enough for a full position. So I'm just wondering if we think we can pull it off. I guess, I hope we can.
Madam President,
But
Mr.
to get
Hammond.
$13,000, that's not that much money to really initiate a substantial effort in 3 schools between the parent component and the classroom component. So,
Madam President, Mr. Hideman, I'll turn the time over to Dr. White to give a little explaining behind this agreement.
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Hanneman, board members. The collaborative agreement, I'm sorry, I'm on the other topic, but this agreement was made back in spring, last year before school was out, and we were hoping that we would get the money way in advance, way back in fall, when we did look at targeting three schools, Tohatchee, Navajo, and Twin Lakes, but as you know, we're only looking at Navajo L, but the money is still there, and they're finding a PED through their stuff that they're going through at the State Department, told us there is money, and so therefore now we're finally getting the award, even though it is February. And we told them, even though we don't have the 3 schools, but we have less than 3, they said start integrating, using the money now for professional development and do what you can on the template. The $13,000 that's listed on there will not support a teacher, but it's for stipends, for after-school work, off-contract work, for coach, teachers, and other things. And we're also targeting parent involvement. As you know, that a lot of the parents don't know a lot about the DNIC content standards, so this is a way to educate them as far as what their students are learning in the classroom.
thank you. Yep, because I had the impression, and that's all I can call it, really is an impression, particularly at Twin Lakes, that there was confusion about what the dual language model might be, and maybe it wasn't certain that there was full support for that, both administratively and maybe somewhat in the community. So the part where it provides this training for parents would be addressing that somewhat. If we have full administrative support at the school level, I don't know. But I'm raising that because it seemed that there was, I'm not sure there was before So, but that's important, obviously, to have that.
As other additional resources come in, we are going to be working with Tohatchee and Twin Lakes. Initially, they wanted to start it, so they're not off the table yet. So so we'll be working with those three as well as other schools who want to get in on it. So this is a good opportunity for us to, if we get the funding. Well, we got the funding. It's a matter of now accepting it from the state, so we can start getting this rolling. Even though it's still late, but it's better late than never.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dr. White, the question I had, so will this budget, that's Exhibit B, financial information sheet, will there be an updated one since we only have one school? Or are you going to keep it the same because you just said we want to try again with Twin Lakes and Tohatchee with revising that budget?
We're going to use that stipend line item as much as possible because we want to also target parent and education as far as the net content standards and paying for NLC coaches and or teachers to teach the parents out there what the content standards are and start looking at that. So we're not excluding anybody, so we're just going to make it more or less global and not just focusing on the 4 pilot schools, but all 32 schools. So we're going to really see what we can do to try to use as much money as we can out of this.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on that topic?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Madam President,
Yes.
with those questions being answered by the questions we put, or I put, and Mr. Huneman put forth to the audience and to Mr. Hyatt, I would recommend that these approval of the content agenda items be passed.
Board members, I just had a question on the individual student that is on the transfer for the waiver. Thank you, Mr. Manini, for your motion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Heineman?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito?
Yes. Thank you. We're going on to study circle reports. Superintendent report.
Yes, Madam President, Board of Education, and audience, we're excited tonight. We have a couple of recognitions. One of them is a little different than usual. We typically recognize students, and we'll continue to do that. But tonight, we are actually going to be recognizing some staff, some classified staff that work for the district, and so we're excited to recognize the hard work of our individual staff also, along with our students at this time. So I'll turn the time over to Mrs. Frazier for the presentation of those awards.
Good evening, Board, Madam President, Superintendent Hyatt. This is an exciting night for us in public relations as we celebrate the classified staff who, there were 15 of them recognized for having perfect attendance not only last year during the school year, but up to this day in this school year. And so this is a group of dedicated individuals that we would like to highlight tonight. I know that not all 15 of them are here, but I would like to recognize those who are and read the names of those who might not be in the audience tonight. So when I read your name, if you would come up here and get your document framed, your framed document, I should say, and then the board will shake your hands. Okay? So we're going to start off. from Theroux, a bus driver. From there, Geneva Bennett. Is she in the audience? Larice Campos. Felix J. Coina. A Theroux bus driver. Tommy McDonald, a Theroux bus driver. A Sayagay bus driver, Frankie Ramon. A Theroux bus driver, Bertha Yazzie. Alice Sanders, is she in the audience? Alice is a Theroux Elementary cafeteria staff person. Also a Theroux bus driver, Ruby Yazzie. A Theroux bus driver, Doris Thompson. Madam President, I think it's safe to say that the Theroux bus drivers like to go to work. A Navajo Elementary School clerk and bookkeeper, Stacy at City. Lincoln Elementary cafeteria staff, Virginia Espino. Would you like to accept that for her? Principal Mary Washburn will accept that on behalf of Virginia Espino. A Gallup area bus driver, Santiago Escajada. A Theroux bus attendant, Annie Endito. Another Theroux bus attendant, Marlene Begay. And from out in the Navajo area, we have a Navajo bus driver, Lenny Y. Bedoni. We'll make sure everyone gets their plaques out to the schools. At this time, we'd like to celebrate a proclamation that was given to Gallup McKinley County Schools from the City of Gallup in the Office of the Mayor. And it actually came to us from the Mayor Pro Tem, Alan Landavazo. It states, whereas all children should have the access to the highest quality educational possible, and whereas the City of Gallup recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in Gallup to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Gallup, and whereas Gallup and McKinley County is home to quality public schools for our children, and whereas public education not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community, and whereas Gallup McKinley County has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children, and whereas public schools are celebrated across the country by millions of students and parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective public schools. Now, therefore, we, Mayor Jackie McKinney, and Councilors Linda Garcia, Alan Landavazo, Yogesh Kumar, and Fran Palachak, do hereby proclaim January 22nd through the 28th, 2017 as Gallup McKinley County Schools Public Schools Week in the city of Gallup, and we call this observance to the attention of all our citizens. Signed, Alan Landavazo. So this is an award that came to us.
Wow.
Madam President and Interim Superintendent, that concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. At this time, we have one more piece of the superintendent's report, and I think it seems like forever ago, it probably wasn't too long ago, a week or so, provided some data off the New Mexico Public Education website that is data that's collected regularly in the state of New Mexico per county, and this is the Youth Risk and Resiliency Survey. And part of the survey, I started getting some questions regarding some of the services that we provide students, and so I wanted to provide some of that information to you and the public. And so I asked Ms. Gonzalez and also Ms. Littenmeyer to come tonight to give a presentation on what services are provided to aid our students that are facing difficult circumstances or have specific needs.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt, members of the board, President, Ms. Manuelito. I, as coordinator of the counselors for Gallup McKinley County School District, serve in the role as coordinator. I am not a supervisor, so I just want to clarify that.
I don't think I called you supervisor, but if I did, I apologize. You are a coordinator, and Ms. Gonzalez is a director, so I'll take my lashings later.
That's all right. Parents, the press, administrators, and the general public often wonder what it is that school counselors do on a daily basis. Gone are the days of school counselors sitting in their office simply handing out college applications, making schedule changes for students who want to drop a class, or meeting with troublemakers in the school. Today's counselors are vital members of the education team. They help all students in the areas of academic achievement, personal, social development, and career development, ensuring that today's students become the productive, well-adjusted adults of tomorrow. School counselors are an important part of the educational leadership team and provide valuable assistance to students regardless of whether they work in the elementary school, middle school, high school, or beyond. School counselors in Gallup McKinley County School District provide support for students in accessing the general curriculum by providing classroom trainings. Those trainings include substance abuse prevention presentations in the classroom, anti-suicide prevention trainings in the classroom, anti-bullying trainings in the classroom, anti-drug and alcohol training presentations in the classroom, which goes beyond the Red Ribbon Week that we often see in the fall. We also provide safe sex trainings in the classroom. We provide trainings to enhance students' academic, career, emotional, social needs, and we strive to encourage each student to achieve maximum development. We provide trainings in how to relate to peers in an appropriate and respectful manner. In addition to working with students in the classroom by providing trainings, school counselors, as directed under the ASCA Ethical Code, provide short-term individual and group counseling opportunities to assist each student in the areas of socialization, grief, anger management. And you know, sometimes you just need someone to talk to and know that it's not going to go beyond the walls of that room. School counselors provide students with training in how to make plans for their future through the Cooter Galaxy program at the elementary school level and the Cooter Navigation program at the middle and high school level. Let me explain. Cooter is a program that we have in place that introduces elementary students to the multiple careers and the many careers that are out there for them. They also build the language of careers through the Cooter program. At the high school and middle school level, the Cooter Navigation program begins with providing students with an interest levels inventory. What are your interests? Where do you want to go in the future? Things that we've never thought about. I can remember when I was in high school and middle school, which I didn't go to, but middle school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to learn. So I went to college. Graduated from college. I had no idea what I wanted to do after I graduated from college. So I got my assistantship at Central Missouri State in writing. And then I went to Madonna House instead. I had no idea that I had to have a job when I got out of school. I thought, just keep learning. Today, our students are provided the opportunity to know a direction in which to go because of the Cooter program. They learn to write resumes, they learn to write letters of interest, they learn to collect letters of reference. They learn interview skills, and they learn how to look at a job, see what they need to do to prepare for that job, and they also have an idea of how much they'll make in that job through the Cooter Navigator program. The Cooter Navigator program also provides middle school students to begin their next step plans, which is carried on in high school as mandated by the state. A valuable tool for our students. Counselors at the middle school and high school level work to assist students in meeting their graduation requirements in line with the Cooter Navigator and their transcripts. They work with their next step plans, and our counselors right now are very busy working on scholarships and admissions to colleges at the high school level. Now, granted, our role as school counselors is to provide access to the general curriculum and help our students do that. We do have students who are in need of greater mental health issues and services that go beyond the short-term counseling provided within the school setting. Our counselors may be able to provide parents with a list of community resources they may contact for assistance, a list which is available on our website. Something I think that's really important is that counselors also play a vital role in making parents feel welcome within the school, and they assist in any way they can to help parents and teachers work together for the good of each child. That's a very vital role that they play. And right now, I've encouraged all of our counselors at the high school level to be sure that they're preparing parents and providing opportunities for training on FAFSA so that our students can get the Pell Grants that they need to attend colleges. I've also had them plan evenings for parents to come in, work on applications, and work on FAFSA grants. Many of our resources are located on the Gallup McKinley County Counseling page of our district website. It has a plethora of information, probably more information than you want, but it is there and it's very clear. Our counselors work very hard. They are bound by confidentiality, and they build within each student a feeling of trust, because without that trust, our students can't confide in them. And they are visible more and more every day. So we provide support for every student, because every student is a student who is a general ed student. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gonzalez, who's going to tell you what social workers do, unless you have any questions to ask of me.
ask a quick question? All right. Madam President, can you talk a little bit about, I know there's services that we provide up to a certain point. What has been your experience in McKinley County with respect to the services that are provided by the entities that we work with or suggest to parents and students?
You know, we've been very, very supportive by GIMCS in providing training for our counselors. We've had much counseling training. We've had the SAPS training with Cheryl Watkins. They've provided quite a few suicide trainings with Eric Willey, suicide trainings that are focused in traditional values. We do refer out to many agencies within the county and within Gallup McKinley County, Gallup itself. We have Alliance of Gallup, which provides services. I am an employee of Alliance of Gallup, and I provide pro bono services to students who are in need and can't get in to see a counselor on an as-needed basis. Battered families. We have a counseling and therapy practice on West Mesa Gallup that does see our students. The DWI program and Gallup McKinley County Juvenile Substance Abuse Crisis Center has provided us a tremendous amount of support. We have, through their services, we have the Boardman training, which is a substance abuse training going on at JFK and at Chief, if I may say so. We have Gallup Indian Medical Center. They provide us, like I said, a tremendous amount of support in terms of trainings, conferences. We're working with them right now on an LGBTQ conference that's to take place at the end of March that will be housed here. We have their counseling services. One of the things you need to know is that we are limited in our counselors in this community, both in the rural instances and in the city instances. And we are working very hard, and I hope you'll support me, to get more counselors into our communities. We have the John M. Stewart New Hope at the Pentecostal Church, which provides counseling. And we have the New Mexico Youth and Family Department of Juvenile Probation that does quite a bit for us, Mr. Hyatt. In the Crown Point area, we have a good relationship with Crown Point IHS. We are lucky enough to have in Peru Miss Manuelito's treatment program, which has been very beneficial. Navajo, Tahachi are afforded the opportunity to use Fort Defiance Behavioral Health Services, and we do use them on a frequent basis. Rama has been able to go to the Zuni area, the Zuni IHS hospital. So we are working with those entities to ensure that our students who need help immediately or need long-term support are able to access those agencies.
Good evening, Superintendent Hyatt, members of the board. I'm the Director of Special Education Services. I wanted to address a couple items with you this evening, and then I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The services that we provide through our social workers that are paid for through special education funds, they're services that are available to students who qualify for special education through an individual education plan. That means they're eligible for services under one of the 13 disability categories in New Mexico. Referrals are made by the IEP team and determined by the IEP team upon review of a school social worker and a school social worker's recommendations for what type of support the student or the family needs. I did hand you a couple of pamphlets. I wanted to highlight the School Social Work Unit brochure that we provide to schools and families. The other brochure that's included is Project Search. And then the big item that I gave you was our trans services directory. And in it, we provide information to parents as well as students with disabilities to access any of the resources that are available in our community. I also wanted to mention that not only do we provide them with this information, but our school social workers are very helpful in terms of supporting parents and students in accessing those resources, making sure that they complete the application process and follow up on making sure they meet their appointments and those kinds of things. And the last thing I wanted to mention to you is that while we primarily serve students with IEPs, our team of social workers through our program also respond to any crisis situations in the district. So if there's any sort of disaster or loss of student or parent or a member of the school community, the social workers under my supervision are always available to respond to schools and staff in those situations.
Something I want to add, and I didn't have it in my brain at the time, but the transition service triggered it. I have requested that our counselors work with our students in providing college and career fairs, and that our students become owners of those college and career fairs, sending out the requests, sending out the notices, setting them up, identifying colleges and what careers they would like to see at their college and career fairs. And we've been seeing that rolling out more and more this year than in the past. And that's been a very good move, because then the students have an ownership of that.
One last comment I wanted to make is that while we do have the resource available to students with disabilities, we always want to make sure our students and our families are connected to providers in the community, because you guys know we do go on long breaks, and if a student runs into a crisis, we want them to be able to access a counselor in the community or a psychiatrist or psychologist, whomever they might need when school's not in session. So that's one of the connections or collaborations that we make, both with GIMC and Rehoboth and all the providers in the community, is making sure that families have that connection as well.
I have a few questions, but go ahead, Mr. Hinman.
Okay, thank you. I am so old that I remember when we didn't have counselors in schools that much, and particularly elementary didn't have counselors. And we look back at that and I think we think, well, kids bring more baggage to school nowadays. There's more social things impacting them. That's probably true. Maybe we just didn't see all the factors years ago. So I'm wondering, you know, when I think about you working with students and families, what you see that we don't see. Because you have a relationship when it comes, on one hand, the positive side, we might say, career and graduation and scholarships and all that, but then there's the personal and social side. You know, I don't know how to ask that question, but so what's going through my head is, what insights do you have that the average person, even professional teachers and board members, don't see, and what do the counselors and social workers talk about when they get together in terms of their concerns from what they're dealing with? You know, where's the focus? What's the main things nowadays?
I'll make a comment and then I'll pass the mic to Mary. We do have kids in crisis. We do have families in crisis. And very often, some of our students show up not necessarily ready to learn, right, but trying to survive for various reasons. Not only socioeconomic reasons, but family reasons. You know, if there's things going on at home between parents or between extended family, all of the social factors that have been mentioned in terms of domestic violence, drug abuse, substance abuse, all of those things that we see impacting our students.
Just quickly, do you see those increasing or decreasing? I don't know how many years you've been working. You're a young lady, so I don't know how many years, but do you see any trends, good or bad, hopeful or
I wouldn't say, I couldn't say increasing or decreasing. I mean, I definitely think like the population that I work with, we see more than perhaps the general population. So I probably wouldn't be a good judge of trends in general.
I think it's difficult to talk about trends. I think we do see a high rate of poverty. We do see students coming to school in crisis. I'm grateful that we have our counselors and we have good principals who care for our students. Let me just give you one scenario. We have a student coming from one of our local BIE schools who's afraid to come into the building. He's run off several times. Our counselor and our principal have done and gone over and beyond to provide that student with a safe environment. School wasn't safe in the past. They have worked very hard to invite him in, to involve him in the school, to provide him with what he needs and his resources. Those are the things that we do. The trends, we've always had domestic violence in this country and in this world. It's not anything new. We've always had poverty. Our goal is to help our students move out of poverty by being provided a good education in a safe environment. That's our goal, is to make sure our environments are safe, to make sure that our students are welcome. We do see, if there is a trend, and I think it's a national trend promoted by social media, the only thing that we're seeing an increase of recently is bullying. And we are working very hard to stop that. But I think we've always had bullying. It's just that we're either more aware of it or students feel they have the right to do that now. But we are working on that very hard. We have seen, and some other issues, some of them are more confidential than anything, and we can't breach confidentiality. But I think the human nature is what it is, and we don't change as human beings. We grow, we come to understand, we come to accept and learn how to cope. And that's what a counselor's job is to help our students learn how to cope despite what's going on in the world around them. Each and every one of us in this room has had to learn how to cope with difficult situations. And those are the skills that counselors now provide our students in a very positive way and in a very good way. And we do support the families. We have the, what do you call them? The backpacks that go home on weekends. We work with the McKinney-Vento and Lisa Blanco to make sure that our students who don't have homes at least are safe and have food and are able to get to school every day. We live in a world that is conflicted, and our students are becoming very resilient, as indicated in the YRRS program survey. Our students have access to a lot of things that you and I didn't have that are not always good. But we are giving them the skills and the coping mechanism with which to survive and become the productive citizens and the knowledgeable citizens that we hope them to become.
Thank you. And resilience and coping, those are key words. And sometimes it's amazing how resilient kids can be, I think. Thank you.
I think for myself, Mr. Hyatt, I would like to see those stats and numbers. I know we do have a problem. I know we do have an issue with bullying, suicidal ideations, and what kind of counseling is being available to our students and those that need those services. I understand our counselors do a lot with academic resumes and, you know, having that academic counseling. But when it comes down to behavioral health, suicidal ideations, trauma, I think we need licensed personnel that can make that determination. We had surveys that were given to students in the past that did have suicidal ideations and were thinking of suicide and had attempted suicide. And I just did not feel comfortable with the academic counselor saying, yes, this one's suicidal, no, this one's not. Because when that happened, the one that was not suicidal ended up hurting themselves. And I don't think that we have the capability of giving that stress to our counselors that are academically trained is my issue. And I think the other thing is I would like to see these resources, this list of resources. I know the ones in my area, some of the ones in my area, but I think we got to go beyond doing referrals and trying to find just giving out a sheet with referrals to the parents. We have children that don't have Medicaid, that don't have any kind of those. We need to pull those resources in so our children are able to get Medicaid, to get on Medicaid. Because if a child came to me tonight telling me that they're suicidal and I do a referral, it's going to sit at IHS for a while and they're not going to get services. But if they at least have some kind of insurance, they can be seen a lot sooner. And at this point, we don't have the capability through New Horizon to have those services provided to our children. And they're falling through the crack. And the ones that are falling through the crack are the ones that are not making it.
I understand what you're saying, Ms. Manuelito, and that's why I have opened myself up at Alliance to provide pro bono services. I do see students in that situation, and they do see me for a period of time for pro bono until I can get them into GMCS. I think we need more counselors who are willing to do that. I do it at night because I can't do it during the school hours. But we do have a few people in the community who are willing to go beyond and provide those services. And if we look at the statistics, we do have a decrease in this community over the last year of suicide rates of adolescents. We're seeing, if I'm not mistaken, in Gallup McKinley County Hospital, we're seeing that the age of suicide is now 24 to 32. That's where the bulk of them are. That is over and beyond our scope. But I do see those people too. And I have friends who see them on a pro bono basis as well. There is that resource. It's just that making it available to our parents, and we're doing a good job of that at the school setting. It's once they leave school, they face the trials of life.
I agree. We have seen those statistics that high school students have gone down. The ages from 19 to 24 have gone up. And, you know, those, and some are even younger. Our youngest one that committed suicide was 10 years old. So I think we need, and that's our target age at the community center, is hitting the mid-schoolers. Do your counselors get together to see what's happening within their areas? And when you're talking about professional development, are they collaborating with each other at this time and maybe reaching out to one another how they can help each other and assist each others?
Our trainings, when I do them, are counselor-oriented. I'm a teacher, so I'm not the focus. Our counselors collaborate with one another. They work in groups, and they talk, and then they bring it to the table, to the center, and we talk about it as an entire group. We do provide that opportunity, and they do have that avenue at our trainings.
And when I was on the Indian Education Committee, there's one conference we attended, the EPICS conference, that dealt a lot with students with special needs. And they went down to the parents' level on laws of IEPs and what they can do to help be the advocate for their child's special services. Is that something that you guys are continuing to do for our parents, that we are giving them the opportunity to attend these trainings like EPICS?
Yes, ma'am. We have an EPICS conference coming up this spring, and we are looking at identifying parents who are interested in attending and are able to, in terms of like taking time off of work. So yes, that is something that we're working on this spring.
And how are you getting that out to the parents?
We are identifying individuals at schools through our principals and our school coordinators. And generally we have a good idea of which parents would be interested in doing something like that. And then we also do have applications that go out, as well as advertisements letting them know if they're interested how to apply.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just want to say that, this presentation that you presented to me was very enlightening, and you guys did a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support of counselors. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Thank you. I'm finished, Madam President, with Superintendent's report.
Mr. Hyatt, did you get those things printed
Which
with the
things?
board recognitions?
The NMSBA
Yeah.
will be to you by the end of the night.
Board members, there's one thing that I did want to, under recognition, if you guys looked at your email and remember, every year we do the New Mexico School Board Association Recognition Awards that goes out to teachers, administration, board members, community members, parents. I would really like for us to select, I think it was $40 for each additional plaque. One of them is provided free from the association, but I would like to continue and request each board member send in their recommendation of a deserving member of our community or teacher, administrator, parent that you think would deserve that award. We'll be getting copies of that, so it'll show the eligibility and requirements that we need to fill out, the forms and stuff. But I think it'd be really nice to pick one out of our own regions, in our own districts, excuse me. But that, I wanted to bring that up, but we'll be getting you copies of that shortly. We'll move on to board report. Mr. Manini, we'll start with you, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate the opportunity. First of all, I traveled to the dedication of Brema Elementary School last week with you, and I thought that school was beautiful. Murphy Builders did a great job of building that school. I'm very proud of that school, and I know Ms. Manuelito is very proud of that school because it's in her district. It's a beautiful school. I think the students are very well organized. The teachers are starting off with getting the students involved in their careers, looking for colleges. I've noticed on a bulletin board down the hallway they had all the colleges around the on a map, which is good for graphic geographic design for them to know where the United States looks like, let alone where the colleges are. And they had strings going from Eastern New Mexico University up to Portales and New Mexico State, going to Las Cruces and so forth. And their teachers are showing where they graduate from also. So that's a good organizational output for that school. Thinking ahead for colleges, along with the trades. If they have a trade, they can go to the trade school. So I went to that school. Sunday, I went to the Jefferson Elementary School for the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast, and I toured that school partially. Got into the cafeteria. I couldn't go down the hallways because the doors are closed, but that is an excellent school. And hopefully we have that dedication soon, Mr. Hyatt, because we need to get that done. It's past due. While I have the opportunity, I want to thank Ms. Moffitt for her report on the JOM she gave us in our booklet. It's an excellent report that she provided. And I also want to thank Ms. Barbone for her comments during public comment, because my father was a battalion death march survivor. So thank you.
That's all. Mr. Hideman?
Thank you. I'd like to, first of all, just mention, I didn't put it in there after the recognitions, but I appreciated the recognitions this evening because sometimes it's interesting to me that, like bus drivers, sometimes know kids and families better than school people because they see them in a community connection and know, have those contacts and familiarity. And I've known bus drivers that really helped kids more than one might expect if you think it's just a matter of driving the bus. And the same with some of the other support staff. They're very important in the environment in a school. And so I just appreciate that we recognize people that have different roles, all important this evening. Two things I just want to mention. I did attend the Indian Education Committee meeting Sunday ago. When was it? It went for 3.5 hours or more. It was a good work session. I think there were 18 committee members present and 4 administrators in the school. And I won't go into details, but just that, again, the committee, I think, worked on some things, continued to chew on some ongoing issues. It relates to just some technical things, even in terms of like mileage things, and also the question, again, of whether a person can be an employee and a committee member and all those things, but they continue to focus and put in all that time and effort to try to refine their operations and so on. The other thing I'd like to just mention is I had a nice little communication with Joe Guillen, the NIMSPA director, about this idea. We have public comment where parents and community members can come and share their ideas and concerns however they want, but we can't discuss those with them. And then the board doesn't really have something that's quite comparable. That's sort of an open-ended thing where we can just share our own ideas and concerns and so on. And we've had work sessions occasionally that are kind of open-ended where they're not necessarily for action. They can have some pre-identified topics and concerns. But I had a little exchange with him about just the idea that on the board agenda, could we have something like, instead of public comment, board comment? And he suggested that what he has done in the past when he was, the schools he was with, it's possible, and because the concern was, what can you do that doesn't violate the Open Meetings Act in terms of, because you can't take action on it then, but he said, even during our board reports, like right now, that is an open opportunity if a board member wants to bring up some ideas and concerns. That can be quite open-ended. It's just that, again, it's not an agenda item, so you can't take action on it. But I was just thinking how sometimes we don't get many chances as a board to just talk about ideas and talk about education. Now, the report this evening on the counseling and social work area opens up some areas to discuss and think about, and that's helpful, but it also puts some boundaries. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with, because he said that would be quite legitimate in a board agenda if any given agenda or routinely you had an open discussion kind of thing available to the board. My only thought about that was you probably want to put a time limit on it. He started doing the open thing, but I just shared that idea. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Mitchell?
I just have two things. I did attend the Tohatchi chapter meeting, and I was really grateful that Superintendent Mike Hyatt as well as Mr. Triplehorn were both there to give updates and to actually communicate with the community members that were at the meeting. It was really good to see, and they were very appreciative as well. And I know there were some things that were just talked about and comments and concerns, and I know that our superintendent has already looked into them, and to me that was a really good sign to me, knowing that finally, we have communication here, and things are, being addressed. I also attended the exit auditing meeting this past week, so I guess we'll all be giving our input on that as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Manini said, it was awesome to experience and tour the Rama Elementary School. Such a beautiful, beautiful building. The smiles on the students' faces says it all, that they're very appreciative of their school, and that's something that was needing and they were longing for. So it was really nice to be there at that moment and share that moment with them. The other meeting I attended was with Mr. Maxwell last Thursday with the State Procurement Office. We also attended the Native American Day in Santa Fe. Met with the chapter, a lot of our chapter officials in our area, our council delegates, also with the legislators, and it was nice to see a lot of our tribal leaders from the Pueblo to the tribe there, and represented, and continuing to encourage our legislative body to support Indian education, to continue to support the tribal infrastructure plans within our chapters. So it was nice for them to be out advocating for them, and also discussing the funding issues that's going on, that they don't want money being taken out of our children's education and out of the classroom. I also attended the Pinedale planning meeting this morning, and they're very interested in our acting superintendent to attend the next meeting there in Pinedale. And today I attended the parent-teacher conferences for my Yaj, my son, I'm sorry, for Saru High School. And I also like to say thank you to SFE for continuing to feed our parents that came in. I think the only complaint I got on my son was he talks too much, and I don't know where he gets that from. So thank you very much for that, board members. Anything else? No? We have our notices, communication.
Okay, our notices and communication, February 6th is parent-teacher conference. February 7th, school board elections. So let's not all forget that. That's tomorrow. February 9th, Gallup Day at the Legislative in Santa Fe. February 20th is President's Day, no school. February 21st is our board meeting. February 22nd through the 25th is in the Mexico School Board Association Board Institute, and that would be in Santa Fe as well. March 6th is the Board of Education meeting at the Rue Elementary at 4 p.m. March 6th, Data Day, no school. And March 20th through the 24th is spring break.
Madam President, if I can add a couple more items on there. As was put on notice, we also have a special special session board meeting on February 8th at 10 o'clock. Hoping we can get a quorum. This is regarding legal services. And also this Wednesday is also our 120th day. So everybody ride the bus.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'm sure somebody's taking care of this, but I just mentioned on the NIMSPA Board Institute, I think, is when new board members get installed. And I don't know who's working with that in terms of their being able to attend that and how that works in terms of expenses. But I don't know if that's an administrative function or who handles those things.
We're looking into it. We're kind of waiting to see what happens, to determine how many we'll need, how many slots. So, and then we'll see what we can offer as far as payment for that.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to Okay.
Yes. Madam President, we have Mr. Stoltz and Mr. Moody here from Meeting-Feb High School. I have met with them along with their assistant principal, Mrs. Hall, in regards to an opportunity that they would like to provide some of their students, which is a trip to Europe. It's due to the nature of this trip being out of the country, and it's also about a year and a half away that they would like to go. I want to make sure that I had met with them and communicated any of my concerns, and also let them know some of the things that they need to make sure they pay attention to before they bring this item to the school board. So they are here tonight to provide a presentation to you, answer questions, and discuss this potential trip. Turn the time over to them.
All right, thank you, Madam President, Superintendent Hyatt, school board members. As he did mention, we are here to propose a international trip with 24 students that would occur after the 2017-2018 school year. The students we are pulling from, or the classes we're pulling from, excuse me, is our current honors and advanced placement world history classes. Right now they are sophomores, they'll be juniors when they go. The trip, we gave you a whole bunch of information on it. Hopefully you've gotten the chance to look through it. It is 12 days.
Let me correct that. I made as my communication error. They just received their packet.
They just got
so
it?
give a little more detail than you would have given.
We can do that.
But
anyways, our trip that we have decided on is 12 days, and it will travel through Berlin, Prague, Krakow, Budapest, and Vienna. Sounds like a really big area, but really it's only about the size of New Mexico. We have four 4 chaperones chosen. 3 of us in the social studies department. I teach world history. Mr. Stoles teaches AP World and government. So we have 4 chaperones. It is a 6-to-1 ratio. The company we are going to be going with is EF Tours. We've chose them due to many different reasons. They are the most affordable we found. They have the best trips that we found. And also they come highly recommended by a lot of other teachers we've talked to. So we've met many different standards. We're going to briefly overview the trip. We're going to focus on 4 areas: student safety, fundraising, educational benefits, and why we chose the group that we are going to choose.
Obviously, the most important part of this trip is safety. Before we wanted to look at where we were going to go, how we were going to get there, the cost of everything. As teachers, I mean, as people who have relationships with these students, we want to make sure that when we go anywhere, that it's going to be safe. And one of the reasons we chose EF Tours is they've been doing this for over 50 years. They have an established setup where they have offices in every location that they do these tours in. And we have a 24/7 tour director that goes and travels with us to every location, every hotel, bus ride, museum tour, and really is there to help guide us through this experience. We have, and like Mr. Moody mentioned, it's a 6-to-1 ratio for chaperone to student. So for every 6 students, there will be a chaperone, and that's not including the tour guide that we will receive. And the other big thing that we like about this company is that they have a 24-hour emergency service system. So if there's anything from maybe a food allergy to something else that could happen, they are always there ready to make sure that we have everything taken care of. And the last one is they have what they call the peace of mind policy. And as many of you have seen, this is a turbulent time in the world today, from everything going on all over. So if we do plan the trip to whether it's a location that can be deemed not safe, whether it's issues with flights or anything, we can get refunded, or actually they'll provide us a separate trip to a separate location that we feel is safer, that we can still provide this opportunity without putting in the work and then being left sort of at the end upset. The second thing, and most importantly, is education. It's called EF Tours because it's education first tours. And they provide a great experiential learning process that really allows the students hands-on experience with the things that we have been teaching them all year. From certain museums to bridges to all of these different locations that we've shown them pictures of, and they've written descriptions, and it'll give them a first-hand view of what we've been talking about, which we think is a really, really incredible opportunity to take a group of students and see this firsthand in Europe.
Obviously, a big thing in this is going to be price, so we decided that if we are going to do this, now the upfront cost will be most of the cost will be out of pocket for the students and their families, so we're going to do everything humanly possible to make this trip affordable. We've set out a fundraising goal that is, we plan to raise $18,000 in fundraising. If we do that, that'll knock $750 off of each student's cost. We have a bunch of different ideas, whether it be concessions at local games and events such as the rodeo. We've discussed maybe setting up something at the flea market, because I know that's been successful for other groups. Mr. Stoles has done fundraisers at local restaurants for his soccer team. They have been very successful. To smaller things like buyouts, working maybe with local grocers such as Albertsons. and to set up big events like a talent show or maybe a student versus teacher basketball game. So we're going to do as much as humanly possible to lower that cost, and those are just full group fundraisers. The students will also have opportunities set up by EF Tours to fundraise individually if they would like. And now the last thing is, why are we selecting AP and Honors World History? Obviously, World History aligns more to our curriculum. If we're going to be traveling to Europe, it makes sense to take a World History or a U.S. History class. Also, right now they're in 10th grade. So if we do this at the end of next year, they will be juniors heading into their senior year. We believe that this age would be ideal to do a trip of this nature. They're a little more mature, but also at the same time, they don't have all of that stuff that happens after your senior year, whether it be starting a job, doing a senior trip, or planning to move to college. So we believe this year would be perfect for this group. We chose AP and Honors for several different reasons. First and foremost, we wanted to make sure we took a really diverse group. Using Power School statistics, it is 80% minority students, which we think would be an amazing opportunity to take them into Europe. In AP and Honors, it's higher level learning, which we'll be doing a lot of in Europe. Plus, we think the best part of this is that doing trips like this with AP and Honors is going to encourage more students to take the step and get into those AP and Honors classes. Because right now there is a lot of hesitation as to whether, oh, do I want to do the work? And I think maybe having some sort of reward system like, hey, you have this opportunity, would definitely encourage future students to engage in those courses. So that's the main points we wanted to hit today. I'm sure you have questions before you let us take kids to Europe. We'd be more than happy to take those.
Let me turn my mic on that I
Me too.
talk to. Mr. Stoltz, when did you come to Miramira High School?
This is my first year at Miramira. Last year I was at Gallup Middle School.
Okay. Mr. Moody?
Yes.
And you? What year did you come to MHS?
This is my first year at Myanmar.
Just information, my wife taught 16 and a half years at Miramira and Gallup High School in World History and Social Studies. So I'm very well aware of what you're going through as a first-year teacher, and that's excellent. Just a reference on myself, my wife and I took a trip to Italy in a group tour, and the group tours are really excellent. You have a tour guide all the time, so it's an excellent idea for the students and great educational. One thing I want to remind you, it takes time to get a passport, as you're probably aware of, so you probably have to go all the way to Grants and get that. There's none in Gallup, I believe. It used to be at the get your picture taken at Walgreens and go to the post office, but the post office, I believe, doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, we're where it takes usually about 14 weeks, so once we have our first full meeting of everyone that is for sure going, that's going to be one of our first things. Hey, get your passport now.
I'll have other questions later. Board members?
For me, I think board members, I would really like to look at all this information that was provided to us this evening. I know just right off the bat, I don't know if it's in here or not, but I do have questions. What are you going to do for the kids that you do select that cannot afford the $750?
No.
So the $750 amount that he was talking about is what we're hoping to raise for each student. The total cost is going to be a payment plan that the students will have to make. Now, one of the reasons we're starting this so early is that we will be able to divide this up so it's much more manageable. As opposed to trying to do it from this February to leave at the end of this school year, it's broken up monthly so that it's manageable as opposed to having to write a very expensive check. And it does seem like a lot, the total amount, but again, we're really going to do everything possible to meet or exceed the fundraising numbers that we have set, so that we can really bring anyone, even if they are not able to meet the price requirements.
And the price requirements are?
Turn the same numbers you're looking at.
It's over 4,000, correct?
Initially, this tour costs $4,020 per student. Now, if we sign them up in February, there will be a $200 discount per student. So that brings it to $3,820. If we do these if we meet the fundraising goal, which we're very optimistic that we'll do, that would relieve $750 off of that price as well. So it'll bring it right around $3,000, which I believe is fairly close to a lot of different trips that are in the district already, such as the Washington, D.C. trip.
So, Madam President, just reading a note here about fundraisers may be added. Individuals would be free to try to raise their own funds in addition to the group things, right? I presume. Yeah.
In fact, when students register with the company will actually set up for them multiple fundraising avenues, whichever way they would like to take to personally raise funds for this. And there's a detailed report in there that the company gave us of things they've done in the past and that they're willing to help us complete if we are approved for the trip. And I know you guys just got that. So.
Madam President?
Mr. Hideman?
This is just an off the top of my head thought. I think the amount is going to be prohibitive for quite a number of students, but if there are enough students to do it, who can do it, they're going to get that experience. I mean, there's no reason in my mind that from having the experience just because all students can have it. I wish everybody could have it, you know, but I think the reality is if you can get the 24 students and they can go and they bring that experience back also in terms of some enthusiasm and knowledge when they're back here with the other students, hopefully that's productive beyond their own limited, their own self. I just think we'd have families where the 3,000 is going to be, you know, and you can try to raise some on your own, and that's possible, but how much I can't say.
I think that's on top of the passport cost, right?
Yeah, a passport, the current price is right around $110 for a U.S. passport.
I think with the statement you said about having AP classes and more people interested in getting or encouraged to get AP classes, I think that with this, I think I wouldn't want my son to hear that, because he's going to expect a trip to Europe if I tell him, oh, if you get an AP class, you're going to go on, this is what they're doing. I don't think, to me, that's the first thing a kid's going to think is, oh, I'm going to try hard to get into AP, but once they get into AP, they're not getting no Europe trip. They're not going, you know what I mean? I mean, I think that kind of bothers me that you guys are saying that, because everybody's going to expect this next year and the year, or after this year, that you guys are going to keep doing this, and we're not going to be able to do this all the time, you know, for every AP class.
And that was one of the concerns we had with doing this. So it's not everyone who's in AP gets to go. There is an application process that the students will go through. There will be, and we did model this after the DC trip, because we saw that as something that's been successful, where it will be a first come, first serve to meet that 24. And so it's not just that if you get into an AP class, you're automatically guaranteed a spot on the trip. We do have measures in place that try it, and We've tried to be clear about that, and we will be if we're approved when we talk to our students, that it's not you're in an AP class, you get to go on this trip. It's still something that they have to work for and try to achieve.
You have a question for you. Have any of you traveled abroad?
Yes, I've done a couple more local, Canada and Mexico. I've also done a similar trip to this, where I went through Ireland and Scotland. And that trip is honestly a big reason why I want to do this, because it was such a massive part of my education, especially as a history junkie. Something like that, being able to see the things you learn about, is something that always will stick with you. You can ask Mr. Stoles. I talk about this trip that I took at least once a month. It probably gets old. But I know from firsthand experience that this is a trip a student will remember forever. And it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
And the other two chaperones that we have, one has taken trips abroad, and the other is what I would call a veteran traveler who has been all over the world, has children living abroad, and is constantly off in some foreign, beautiful destination on our breaks.
And also this last chaperone, he mentioned Miss Saldana. She has done trips similar to this where she's taken many students abroad, which is a big reason why we chose her as a chaperone.
I think this is an excellent opportunity for the students. How many students do you have right now in AP history classes?
The combination of AP and honors history is 66.
You have 66 right now as sophomores.
Yes.
And that's the breakdown of the percentages that I see in the handout.
Yes.
Of ethnic.
Yeah, those numbers are a combination of the RAP and honors classes.
Okay. It says no. It's not going to cost any travel for mileage. The mileage is for the airfare, correct?
Yeah. So the price that we have given includes travel insurance, plane fare, tickets, buses, anything that we will do over there, including breakfast and dinner, is included in that price.
How are you going to get from Gallup to Albuquerque?
We are actually in talks with our administrator right now about trying to have the students meet at Maimira and then take a school bus to the Albuquerque airport.
Okay, thank you. Just going to say no problem. That's why I'm going to question. Is there any budget for that, Ms. Hall? Thank you.
Does the, sorry, Mr. Manini.
That's okay.
Does the company that you're talking about, with their insurance, what does their insurance entail?
So the insurance is exclusively for the trip and covers in case the trip is canceled. It's not a health insurance type situation. So that sort of, is that what you're asking about, is if there's an accident?
The global liability insurance plan piece on our commitment to safety. There's a $15 million liability policy, $1 million customer protection plan. I'm assuming that's reference to life.
Yeah.
That's not in reference to you missed your plane. That's in reference to something major happens physically to you.
Yes.
Well, I really would like to look at this packet over, but I will go with what the board the one thing that I see your demographics here, and my biggest worry is the kids that really would like to experience this but cannot afford it. $3,000 is tough. Even the $110 for passport is tough for our families. And we know that we have smart kids out there that are not financially able to get this cost, and I'm scared that they meet academically, but then of course financially they're going to get left behind. That is my worry in this, and I don't know how you guys can ease my mind on that, because $3,000 for our families is a lot of money.
Is there a timeline on raising the funds? I'm sorry I didn't get through all this packet yet.
So our goal is to hopefully get that 18,000 before we leave. Now and again, one of the benefits of doing this early is the students will set up a payment plan by month, and that last payment isn't actually due until just before we leave. So we can have these fundraisers really over the next year and a half. Our goal is that if we do get approved for this, we would like to start as soon as possible to not only just encourage the fundraising, but also to see what other types of avenues we have to maybe get money for some of these students that, and we recognize that as well, that this $3,000 is a lot of money for any family, whether it be grants or other avenues, but we didn't want to go down that avenue until we were sure that you guys were okay with this trip.
Madam President, I think this is a great opportunity, and it's a lot of time for planning. I think if the student is very interested in going to this trip, they can have a fundraiser of some sort on their own, correct? Go down and ask one of the local grocery stores to have parents sell fry bread and make some money that way very well. Because I know a fry bread down in Albertsons last week was really going good. Actually, it was a hot dog stand, but that's okay. But I think it's a great opportunity, and I see that the tentative registration schedule that you have, you've already probably talked to some of the students about this, correct?
So what we wanted to do is just to try to get some general idea if there is interest for a trip like this. We didn't give them too much specifics. We just wanted to know, are there students out there that are interested? Because we didn't want to plan a trip and then have one person really want to do this. So we just have gotten general consensus from our classes. And the schedule for the way we'd like to proceed is in the information you were given. You know, the next step, and it's going to be a big one, is involving the parents, talking to them, one of many meetings that we will have between them to try to answer any questions, talk about all of this. But yeah, it's our goal initially was to see, are our students interested in a trip like this?
Madam President, one of the concerns I have, and I think it falls on potentially on your shoulders, but potentially on well-intentioned students, is the refund policy, because that's fairly, it's quite far out. I mean, quite a ways ahead of the actual trip. And if somebody starts into it and then for one reason or another can't go or just can't come up with the money, then who holds the bag on paying the refund policy? Do you end up paying all that? I mean, somewhere that has to be anticipated, the possibility has to be anticipated.
Yeah, we really looked into this, and luckily the company does have a very, very specific refund policy. You can see it in our report. It has everything laid out. Most of the cost It depends if there is a replacement. So what we've set up when we do our application process to go, we have set up so if we have, say, 30 students who apply, and we can only take 24. So the 6 others would be put on a, for lack of a better term, a waiting list. So if it does happen that a student is like, suddenly has to move, if they're moving to Vermont or something, why pick Vermont? If they're moving to Vermont, then there is a policy. They would have to pay a couple of fees. There is mainly just the $95 enrollment fee. That's really just the big one. But other than that, their spot can be switched to another student who would then upfront the costs. So there wouldn't be, if there was a replacement, a big fee for them. Plus, if they do have put in, let's say, 5 months worth of payments, the student that was paying that now drops out would get that money back.
And they have a tiered system, so you guys can see, and this is something we'll have to be absolutely clear with for the parents and give them a calendar. Basically, as we get closer to the trip, there are multiple opportunities for them to, if they, like Mr. Moody said, if maybe a parent loses a job, if something happens and they need to drop out, there are. The only way is once we hit 44 days out, and the company told us that that's when they officially book flights in their name. So that's when that spot can't be switched over. The money will be spent and the name will be on the plane ticket. So at that point, they will not be receiving any money back. But up until 44 days out, they are able to, on some level, get their money back, and that waiting list will sort of kick into place, where that way we'll have other students that are able to go.
So they get
So,
this cut.
are you going to be suggesting that the students who are on the waiting list, maybe they need to get a passport as well, and be prepared in that manner?
Yes. And again, it's been difficult for us to put the exact specifics of the trip together because we don't know if we're going to have 8 kids or 40 kids sign up. So this is our best estimate, but the idea is that for those kids that are on the waiting list, it'll be clearly explained how this process will work, and we will keep them in our process of getting prepared. So passports and everything else.
So is this trip based on the 24 students then? So if for some reason you only get 15 students, is the price going to go?
The price does not go up at all. The only thing that differs would be the size of our group. That's it.
And I want to mention that you may not see any specific dates on there. That's because we're waiting until the official last day of next year comes out so that we can plan appropriately. We don't want to book a trip and find out, oh, we still have 2 days of school left.
You're the board members, right?
Well, I'd like to see you go myself. I think it's a great opportunity for your education to help the other students that don't go the following year to bring back the information that you've been through, and the other students can bring back also back to their parents that wish they were going. I think that would be great, and I'd like to make a motion, Madam President, that to be approved, that the Miami trip be approved. I think it's a great opportunity for these students. See how it goes. I like to volunteer my services because I came back from Italy for 14 days and it was great. Euros are a little difficult. The value of the dollar is not as good as it is over there, so you need to talk to the students about that also. So that, Madam President, I move that this trip be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Manini.
Madam President?
Yes.
On the tentative registration schedule, 2 days from now, there's to be a parent meeting. All right.
On approval by the board.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I guess, just thinking of your concern, Madam President, it could be, because there's not going to be any formal commitment to the travel company yet. Thinking of the board, I mean, if you wanted, the board could ask for a progress report, you know, and see how it's looking. If we just want to be sure it's continuing on solid footing as much as possible. And the have with that is just that the communication to the parents has to be really clear. What you mentioned about a calendar, kind of projecting that so they just don't somehow start into it and not have their eyes open. I think it is a great opportunity for those who will be able to do it, but I just don't want people to get hurt in it.
Yeah,
and so I think if the board wants to keep tabs on that for a while, that would be in order. But otherwise, I don't see preventing it for those who can do it.
Who are the other two board members? Who are the other two chaperones?
Kelly Fitzmaurice, who is a second-year social studies teacher at Mayamira, and Roberta Saldana, who has been at Mayamira for quite a few years.
As?
A Spanish teacher.
Roll call on Mr. Manini's motion to approve this trip.
Lynn Heineman,
Hopefully, yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
I just wanted to say that, you know, before, I agree with Mr. Hideman. I think I will vote yes at this time, but I would like to see and hear updates, especially after your family meeting, to see what their comments are on this thing.
Yeah.
I would like to have the board being fully updated on any changes or, you know, just anything that's going to be happening.
Yeah, one of the only reasons we're trying to get this moving is the discount. If we can get them signed up in February, they will get a discount, and it does seem quick. It is a very short time window, but we wanted to see if it was possible to get it within that window, because it will help with the overall cost.
Yes.
And another small thing, if you'll notice under fundraising, we have grants. We are going to be doing everything possible. I know you were concerned about lower socioeconomic families being able to contribute to this. We're going to be doing everything humanly possible to look into possible grants or scholarships for those students who can't just raise that themselves. So we're going to be looking at every possible angle.
roll call, Ms. Manuelito.
I'm very hesitant on this trip, just due to my concerns and me just receiving this big packet this evening, and I haven't reviewed it, and I want that in the records because that's what bothers me the most. And the other thing is, I would like at least quarterly updates on this, which includes the demographics, because there are other funding that's available that we can look at, but it would depend on the demographics. And my biggest concern, is it's not going to be you two that get sued. It's going to be we're the ones that get sued all the time as board members. So it won't be you guys in the newspaper. It will be us in the newspaper. And you know, right now we're very. Those are my cautions. Those are my worries. And I hope that everything. This is a wonderful thing, and I know our children will experience and enjoy, but I'm still hesitant because of this. But yes, I do motion for approval with the understanding we will receive updates. And if we don't receive updates, I want to bring it back to the board's attention again at that point if we are not receiving updates. Thank you.
And you have our emails. I would appreciate if some of us could meet soon after and we could discuss possible grant or scholarship options for those students. Because you guys probably have a lot more knowledge of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That works.
Board members, we have one more in Common Core State Standard. That's a discussion before we go into executive session. Mr. Hideman, I think this is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow board members, this was prompted a couple of weeks ago in one way by, and I don't tend to be long-winded about this, but a couple of weeks ago in the press, there was word that Arizona had set aside the Common Core. It's been an issue in Arizona for a number of years since it started, and there have been efforts to not use Common Core, and I just wanted to express a couple thoughts about it. I don't think it's an issue in New Mexico quite the same way, but sometime before I was ever on the board, I made a comment during public comment here, somewhat critical of Common Core, the process, and I just want to repeat some of those thoughts because I think they're still there for some people in the state and in the country. The content of the Common Core standards is not bad, right? The standards, educational standards to be tested and so on, are not that different from what states have had for years. It turns out what the news from Arizona, when it said that the state board had rejected Common Core, basically what they did is they just renamed it and they tweaked it. They still basically have the same Common Core standards. One is that they put in a requirement that cursive writing be taught, whereas that's not identified or required in the Common Core standards. And there have been concern about kids not learning to write what we used to call longhand or cursive. But the reason I just wanted to mention it for whatever use it may be sometime in the future is I personally believe that the U.S. Constitution says that education is a function of the states. I don't think the federal government has any business in education. I'm not talking about Indian education and treaty things. That's a whole different thing. But that's one of the things that's been behind the issue, and I think it's going to come up again under the current new president, possibly. And so that is one aspect of the Common Core, is that Common Core itself claims that it was developed with a lot of teacher input and even parent input. I never saw that. There were some teachers involved, but it was heavily done in a somewhat politicized process in the sense that it was state governors and state, what we call chief school officers, chief state meaning superintendents of public instruction for the states. And because there's sort of an interlocking directorate, I call it, between the chief state school officers in the country and the colleges of education, and then in more recent years the U.S. Department of Education, there is, in my mind, the reason I want to express it is there is not in there, to me, room for real local input when we talk about possibly unique local curriculum, which can be very important in Indian country. And so the dilemma I have with it is that American education, the whole American education system generally, public education system, is very monolithic. It's very much the same. It isn't bad, it's just that there's more options out there. There's more models out there. And so I just wanted to bring that up as an opportunity for me to express that, because the standards, for instance, when we come to math, it's the same thing I expressed once. We're only testing 2 areas, as if all of education and all of life hangs on that. And language is vitally important, okay? And math is very important. But what happens with that in the Common Core standards, we go up then, we have that basis where kids face advanced algebra when they would do much better, sometimes getting more applied math rather than the advanced algebra, and it just doesn't open the door, open the floor to full examination of our options. And so the states all fall in line. 44 of the states have adopted Common Core. Interestingly, some of the ones that are quite strong in some of their own educational development, Minnesota and Texas are 2 that did not adopt Common Core. But all I'm trying to say is, when we look at our kids and we look at our backgrounds, what really tests how effective our kids will be in life, and what will the things be that we say are important. And I continue to say, I mean, I almost became a math teacher because I liked math, and I did advanced math in high school and so on, and yet I look and I say, nobody knows about applied math. All the stuff that's useful, that's mathematical, that's non-algebraic. And once you go past beginning algebra, because there is a reasoning process involved in algebra. Algebra has some logic in it that's not just isolated math. It really is a logical thinking process that's important. But anyway, I just express that because I know there are movements in the country at times, and some of them are surfacing, becoming a little stronger right now, again, challenging Common Core. And it isn't that the standards are bad. And National Council of Teachers of English, National Council of Teachers of Math, the title exact, those associations have been involved, you know, and they're experts. But I just think, again, there are more ways to skin a cat, more ways to educate a kid and set up curriculum and standards. And so, you know, a couple of weeks ago when we're putting in items for the agenda, and I was seeing the headlines from Arizona about rejecting Common Core, and, you know, I thought, well, put that on there. But then as it turns out, even though they've renamed it, they pretty much have the same standards. And but again, where are our standards on Navajo language? You know, those kinds of things that in terms of local uniqueness and local innovation and local design. And it isn't to say that this Common Core standards are said to be international standards. Well, that sounds good. I'm in favor of that in terms of kids should be, the whole world should be open to students. As they grow up and look at careers and mobility, you know, it's not to fence kids in. We want them to be able to, just like this trip, see the whole world, do what they want, what they aspire to. And yet I just see the standards, even though they're valid in some ways, is still narrowing our options in our thinking. So that's my spiel on that. Thanks for bearing with it. You don't have to agree, but you may. And you may disagree. We're in a free country.
Thank you, Mr. Hideman. At this time, board members, we have executive session. NMSA 1978 14-2-187 litigation, attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatening or pending litigation in which the public body is or may be a participant, and New Mexico or NMSA 1978 14-2-1H2 limited personnel matters, pending litigations, any lawsuit, personnel matters, board directives to superintendent, notice of public education, acting superintendent personnel report, superintendent evaluation. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion to enter executive session.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Manini,
Yes.
Mr. Heineman,
Yes.
Miss Manuelito.
Yes.
8:30.
Motion by, motion to exit out?
Motion to come out of executive session.
Thank you, Kevin. Roll call?
Mr. Bernini? Mr. Hideman?
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Hinneman?
Madam President, members, and Mr. Hyatt, I have a motion here. Has two parts to it. I move that we adopt the resolution to continue the district's participation in the Zuni lawsuit, and also to adopt the policy regarding litigation as a board policy. And if you want me to summarize it further, otherwise we have the two documents in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Hinneman, for your motion.
Thank you. I'll word that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Menini?
Yes.
Kevin
Yes. Ms. Manuelito?
Yes. Motion for adjourn.
Motion to adjourn
Thank
at
you.
9:43.
9:43 p.m. Roll call.
Mr. Hideman?
Yes.
Yes.
One second, really quick. Did you do a action item for the both documents or just one?
Yes.
Oh, both.
We
Okay,
combined
just make
both
sure.
of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Thank you very much. Huh? Kevin, Manini.
Mr. Hyatt, the meeting next Tuesday, I believe you need to talk to Ms. Manuel, or Wednesday, whenever it is. We're changing the time and date.
Monday.